the pocket gimbal camera, that tiny stabilized shooter you always bring with you. DJI built that whole category. And right now, it's the one company not allowed to sell their new ones in America. Its Chinese rival, no problem.
They're literally handcuffed here. They can't sell their own product. They clearly invented this category.
So DJI sued, and 2 days later, Insta360 sued back, aiming straight at DJI's crown jewels.
So Insta360's counterclaims reach into DJI's flagship Ronin and Osmo Mobile products.
2 countersuits, 3 days. And one market nobody can win cleanly. We trace the whole saga.
This is Focus Check, the weekly Cinetech podcast.
Welcome to episode 121 of CineD Focus Check. My name is Nino Leitner and this is Johnny Behiri. Johnny, how do you know that our industry is in a very, I would say, tumultuous phase?
When companies start to fight each other and spend money on suing each other instead of innovating and moving forward, you know that there is an issue.
Plus acquisitions, mergers, all the stuff we're going to talk about today.
Great.
And like you said, we're going to start with this incredible rivalry of Insta360 versus DJI, DJI versus Insta360, and what has happened over the last week over their launches of the Luna Ultra and the Osmo Pocket 4P cameras. There's a lot to talk about in that. Then we're going to move on to similar topics, which are, also consolidation related. First of all, Artlist just announced that they're going to lay off 200 employees, which is a year after hiring 120 people. Don't forget, they really pivoted to AI generation in many ways, away from being a stock music, stock imagery, stock
music,
footage
whatever,
site, which was and is very controversial in the community. Also, a lot of the people who are using it and contributing to the site. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Paramount's Warner Brothers merger, which we reported about many times in the past. Now it got the approval by the Department of Justice in the US, but it's still not over, but it seems one step closer to actually happening, which is a consolidation in the production market as well, where a lot of people in the US or in general are scared what that will mean in terms of like the amount of productions happening. We'll talk about Mark Roberts' motion control, which was only recently sold by Nikon to a venture capital company. And for, I think, 6 weeks later, it entered liquidation, which is strange. And now they're looking for another buyer. And apparently somebody has been found, but not named yet. So we'll report about that. And then we're finally moving into new gear. And we'll talk about Blazar being innovative and announcing the Blazar Sentinel Anamorphic zoom. So we now have really budget anamorphic zooms. And it's starting, it has already started.
Laowa was the first one to do
That's
those.
True. But now, it's getting more mainstream, and it's incredible what we can get for a very low amount of money, actually. We'll also talk about a bit more pricey lenses, the Angénieux EZ 65 series covering 65mm sensors. We'll talk about Hollyland introducing a new PTZ camera, the Astra P1, which is quite capable in terms of the resolution, frame rate, and the tracking that it has. We'll talk about our Lito 1 review by Jacob, who reviewed their entry-level drone, which does 4K 100, of course, and has omnidirectional vision, which is a first for a drone at that size. We'll stick with drones for a little bit, talk about the SKYROVER S1 and X1 drones, which are remarkably similar to some DJI drones in the market. We'll talk about that as well. We'll also talk about the Godox inflatable ring and wand lights, which are called LR150 Air and LC500R. Really cool, by the way. I recently was on a production where somebody used inflatable lights, and for some reason, haven't really come across them before, and it's so useful. It's so useful and so small. You can just literally pack them up into next to nothing. We'll talk about Tilta with their new foldable charging station for NPF batteries. Very useful, very also, again, something that saves you a lot of space when traveling. You can charge 6 batteries at a time in a charger that folds up into a very small package. We'll talk about self-made virtual productions. What do you actually need to get started? And I'm not talking about volume. I'm not talking about LED walls. I'm talking about a green screen studio. This is based on Biro Florin's course that we have on MZ now. We have a nice article actually laying out what you need to get started to do your own little virtual production studio with very little actually on the budget. And then last but not least, we'll talk about shooting a rocket launch in Apple Immersive video with the URSA Cine Immersive. But let's get started with the DJI and Insta360 topic. So, this must be the fastest moving rivalry in imaging, and it just became a two-front legal war within a week. So
you mean from ugly it became uglier?
Exactly. So the timeline here, we all know, there's been teasing around the Insta360 Luna Ultra, which is essentially their little handheld pocket version with 2 lenses. It's been, talked about for weeks. It was formally launched also last week. We'll talk about that as well. And the same product category, I would say, as the DJI Osmo Pocket, right?
4P to be more accurate.
Yeah, in general, it's similar, but then also like DJI also releasing their first dual camera Osmo Pocket which is the 4P, which again, very strange launch.
This is a different topic.
We will talk about that too, but in general, both of them very strange launches and probably related because, they are kind of fighting each other. So let's start with the timeline of this whole saga. First of all, on June 10th, Insta360 launched the Ultra. So this was kind of surprising because we didn't have a launch date, right? So it was just suddenly out. And the same is true for the Osmo Pocket 4P, which was now only launched in China, I think yesterday. Like we are recording this on Wednesday, so it was launched in China yesterday, but not globally yet. So anyway, so the Ultra is out. Just to go through the specs a little bit. So this is a dual lens 8K camera, uses Leica optics, and it has a detachable OLED screen. Quite impressive, I have to say, from the specs, of course, with a 1-inch sensor inside or 1/1.3-inch telephoto module. It's gonna be more light sensitive than the existing Pocket. I think that's safe to say. I'm sure there will be a lot of comparison videos showing up soon. And from what we've seen, the image looks quite impressive, and I think that's the first feedback that we've seen also from reviewers. They quite like it. Also, the fact that you can detach this screen is very smart, actually, because that means you can literally film yourself. It works quite far. I think it goes up to 20 meters away, like the transmission of this little screen. So to do these autonomous little shots is quite useful. It has a log mode. I think they have a conforming LUT. It's called iLog, what they use. It's quite new to them, so I'm sure that all the the ACES workflow and all of this will be implemented in also DaVinci and so on over time. But yeah, it is an impressive thing. It's not exactly cheap. I think it's around
800.
Yeah, $700 something dollars. But what you get seems quite comprehensive. I've also seen on early reviews that the built-in microphone is very good, even in wind, even on this remote screen. So you take off the screen, and that as soon as you take it off, it uses the microphone in the remote thing. I guess you can decide, but that's really smart, of course, because if you're talking to the camera and you just have this filming yourself, it uses this microphone, and the quality was quite good from what I've seen. I can really recommend. I hope we'll also do a little bit of a hands-on with this as soon as we get access to it. But I can recommend the Potato Chat review. I just want to point it out because he did a great job. It is a sponsored review, I think. But still, he was quite fair also to the shortcomings of it. Now, yeah, let's talk about the layout, of course. I think it's I would say it's fair to say it's very much inspired by the Osmo Pocket.
I don't even know how can it be that they are even daring to show such a design. And I really wonder if DJI did not protect the design to the point that they can really claim, hey, this is ours. I personally am not a big fan of Insta360 products. That's just me. I do like DJI in general. Here, it's a bit of a mixed bag with what's going on in the launch that we're going to talk in a second about the DJI Osmo Pocket 4P. But here at least it looks like a one-on-one copy. So at least, and I'm not even gonna go into the technology. Yeah, I'm just looking at the way the product is being designed. I really wonder if DJI has a solid claim here. I mean, they are claiming that this product has been in design since 2020, if I'm not mistaken. I think I saw somewhere.
Which is 2 years after the original Osmo Pocket was launched.
So I really, of course, I don't have the full picture here. I'm just saying is when you look at the product, you go, oh, this is literally a DJI clone.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks very much the same, taking to the next level in a way on some regards. But of course, it's I mean, and DJI thinks, of course, the same, because that's how the whole lawsuit thing is framed, right? So basically, DJI sued Insta360 on the launch day of the Luna Ultra in America, like in the US. And yes, again, I have to point out, this is the first true gimbal cam of Insta360, and it is clearly a direct shot at the Osmo Pocket. And then on the same day, DJI they sued in the Eastern District of Texas, which is supposedly a plaintiff-friendly venue. And they're targeting the Luna Ultra plus the unreleased Ultra Pro, Luna Ultra Pro, or Luna Pro. And they want a permanent injunction. That means they want them to stop being able to sell it in America. Now, the important thing here is, of course, to know that DJI has their problems in America. They were not able to launch any new product in America since December 25. So none of their new products is officially released in America. And when we talked about this many times before, there was this looming threat that they are on this list, and now they are on this list and they cannot formally launch anything. And for some time it looked like it was only related to drones, but it's for every new product. Like if you go to the US website of DJI, the latest Pocket you will see there is not even the 4, it's the 3, right? Because the 4P, I mean the 4 was released, a month ago or so, or 2, and they still, I mean, a lot of it looks like almost like a DJI website from the past, unfortunately, because a lot of the newer drones and other products have not been released.
Can you imagine the financial loss here for DJI? And I guess that's part of the stress and part of this reaction. Yeah, so they of course want royalties from Insta360 for any Luna that was already sold also. So it's not only about future sales, but it's also about current ones.
Of course, I mean, they're literally handcuffed here. They can't sell their own product. They clearly invented this category with a Pocket and have a competitor who probably identified this years ago. Well, I mean, they say it's been in development, the Luna, since 2020, which again is 2 or 3 years after the original Pocket was launched. And so I don't know why they even say this as an argument, because it's already after the original launch, right? So, but anyway, it's perfect timing for Insta360 to be able to introduce a product that is not only superseding technically what's available from DJI at this point in time, because the 4P is not launched yet, but they cannot even launch it. So you can't, like, the product from DJI that's in the market there is just simply older. And of course, they can only compete on price. I mean, they can drop the price on the Pocket 3 in the US to a degree where maybe some people think it may not make sense to spend $700 or $800 on the Luna Ultra, but still, I mean, they're not able to introduce anything new. That's and I don't understand. I mean, the whole it seems so unfair, because if DJI is on that list, Insta360 should be on that list too, right? Because why single out an individual company not to be able to sell? They're both from China. It's not like Insta360 is an American
they both
company.
sell the same product, similar products like drones and the gimbals. So one company is being excluded altogether, and of course the other one can still sell the products.
I mean, of course, there is a backstory to this whole thing because there's other products that they both sell, right? There is the Osmo 360, which is the first 360 camera by DJI, which is clearly a take on Insta360, which was, I mean, hence the name. I mean, they've become big because of their 360-degree cameras, and the X series specifically has been very, very successful. And then DJI didn't care about this category for the longest time, and suddenly they introduced a 360 camera and called it Osmo 360. And the same, of course, with the Avata 360, which is a play on the anti-gravity drone, which is a different brand, but it's called an company incubated by Insta360. So let's treat it as an Insta360 product, right? So basically, you have DJI kind of going into a category that Insta360 was dominant in, and now vice versa. DJI is Insta360 going after DJI, and that's exactly what the lawsuit says on both sides, because there's two lawsuits from DJI against the Insta360. The first one says that two design patents, because you were talking about this protection, there is a protection. The ornamental look of the Osmo Pocket, which is the elongated body, the gimbal-mounted camera, and the rotating display, which is exactly the same, and the control layout. This is the first lawsuit of DJI against Insta360 that they're fighting against them. And then the second one is for utility patents. It's the follow and lock toggle, it's the built-in tracking and live display, and it's the image-driven motor control and phone-free tracking. DJI frames this like Insta360 copied both the look and the operating logic of the Osmo Pocket 3, and it copies inventions wholesale. DJI wants, like you said, injunction royalties, profit, disgorgement, enhanced damages, and alleging willful infringement. And Insta360, 2 days later, on June 12th, countersued with two lawsuits, 5 utility patents, and naming DJI's Ronin RS, Osmo Mobile, and Osmo 360. And their claims are on gimbal stabilization, directional control, smooth stabilization, telemetry overlay, panoramic video, and Insta360 names the Osmo 360, of course, because DJI's first panoramic camera in a category that they didn't have before. Now, J.K. Liu, the founder of Insta360, says he prefers to let products do the talking, and he's not afraid of a legal battle. And like we said, he says that the R&D started in 2020, which I don't understand. I mean, that's still 2 years later. I'm
just saying the owner comes out as a very militant person. I think it's not the first time that we hear that he's not afraid of legal battle and so on. Fine.
Well, there's also a backstory, of course, because a lot of former DJI engineers are now working at Insta360, and part of the whole thing, and the first lawsuit that we also reported about, which was on the drones, actually, we had this in March, that DJI already sued Insta360 for patent infringement on the 360 drone, and that was because they hired, I think, 5 engineers from DJI. And according to Chinese law, apparently, any patents that are filed when you are working for a competitor, there's some period of time, they can still fall back on your former employer, which is, of course, I mean, it's a bit of a gray area. There's always...
But it makes sense. Imagine you work with your team on an idea and whatever, and then you move to a different team, and then you suddenly come up with a new idea. So I think... I don't know, of course, the Chinese law, but I think that's a good thing that for whatever period of time, any idea that you come up with actually still belongs to the former company. I'm just saying, as I said, that's my personal perspective. The owner of the Insta360 comes out very militant. That's one thing. And the second thing is, of course, we will have to let the product stock, like to see which one is better, the Luna or the Osmo Pocket 4P, because at the end that's what's important. But all in all, what really puts DJI not in a very good spot is the whole introduction of the product. Somehow, I think both of us felt that they are very much concerned about the outcome of the Luna and how it performed, and that really led to maybe the worst ever. The weirdest and worst ever launch of a camera. We never seen something like this. That things are. You remember we were invited to Cannes. We didn't go, but we couldn't make it. We couldn't make it.
That was 2 days before the event, actually.
Before the event, and this was just to tease the actual product.
Yeah.
With no specifications, nothing, and I don't even know what was the outcome. We couldn't even report about it because there was literally no news.
Well, we know that. Like everybody who has the camera, and that was true actually, to be fair, for both companies. For the longest, like before the launch of the Luna, Insta360 had similar clauses, but then also DJI, they only want people to talk about the claimed 17 stops of dynamic range.
The DJI guys.
DJI. And then also now I think some people are allowed to already share some footage online, but not talk about the specific specs, even though...
And not compare to the Luna.
Well, not compare, and also, not like even though it has been launched in China yesterday. So that's like... I understand DJI because I think this whole... I think maybe this whole IP battle in court would be much softer or not even happen if DJI was able to sell their products in America. Of course, US is the biggest market in the world. It's very hard for them to lose that. And again, I find it fundamentally unfair that they are not allowed to sell stuff there. You know, like with the drones, you know, there might be some safety argument with like tracking and so on, whatever, you know, which is, you know, like wholly political. But anything that's not a drone, I don't understand it. I simply do not understand why they're not allowed to sell when their competitor is allowed to sell it. That's unfair, you know. Like I don't. If you want to make a rule, make it the same for everybody. Then just allow American companies to sell there, you know, like that. You could do that, and then all the foreign companies would not be allowed to sell it. But of course, I'm sure the government knows that this is not a smart move because there's literally there's no manufacturer in America that could do anything like that. And the same in Europe, actually. It doesn't matter. But that makes it so unfair, and that's why I think. That kind of sparked a very weird launch battle where both companies seem a little bit unsure of how to launch their products and how to get at each other. DJI has always been extremely professional about when launching products. They have been very consistent. They usually tease a product. They don't really show anything. Then they sometimes... You know, like they give reviewers access to it beforehand under strict embargo, which makes total sense. You can prepare stuff, you can work with it, and there is a firm launch date, and you know you can launch your review when the product is launched globally, right? With this one, it's completely all over the place, and everybody's confused. Like everybody and their mom seems to be testing it. Nobody's able to talk about it. Same with the Luna, and now it's kind of out. Like the Osmo Pocket 4P is out in China. I mean, it's a global world, right? You can't, as soon as the stuff is even in Chinese on the website, the news is out, right?
Yeah,
it's
the
out.
Specifications
we know
are
the specs.
The price is out. The only thing is, me personally, and this is for our fellow reviewers, I was just very surprised to see how people are literally mimicking DJI's claim of the 7 stops of dynamic range, 17 stops of the dynamic range, without even thinking twice. Guys, are you serious? This camera, 17 stops of dynamic range, and without even asking yourself if this can be even the case. I mean, even by watching some of the stuff, it simply can't be.
Yeah, I mean, this is in general, of course, that's why we do our lab tests. That's why we try to, I mean, usually all those small sensor cameras, doesn't matter if it's smartphones or things like the Pocket, they basically all do dual exposure combination kind of stuff in order to achieve a higher number. We know that. But I mean, it's like completely just, literally saying that number without verification, which nobody is able to verify because nobody does a structured lab test. It's weird. But general,
it seems like that's one of the only things that DJI could hang on in order to justify the launch. You know what I mean? Because right now, at least from what we know, it might be that the Luna is simply a better camera.
We'll see.
we will
Yeah,
see, yeah.
we will see. I mean, it doesn't look good, and I think if I were DJI, I would just be confident because they have. I mean, their lineup of products is amazing. They literally are one of the leading tech companies of our age. I mean, there's no denying. I mean, their drones, absolutely, there's no competitor there, and the behavior. I understand they feel threatened by Insta360, but the behavior doesn't do the brand justice in a way, right? Because even if a competitor comes out with a product that might be, better in some ways, that's fine. I mean, it's one out of 100 products that they have. I wouldn't worry about that. And like I said before, I mean, they have always done a really great job at launching products in the past. They teased it. They invited people to some events, or they sent out products, and then we tested it, and there was always great communication in the background with technical teams and PR teams, and very open conversations. And then there was a launch, and you could launch it, and it was out, and that's it. And now in this way, it just doesn't make any sense. Like it's not worthy of DJI the way this whole launch has been handled, and I hope that they can do this better again in the future, because I think it's not worth losing too much hair over this one product, right? I understand the frustration with the US market entirely. I also think it's fundamentally unfair how they have been treated in comparison to other Chinese manufacturers like Insta360. And I think it's the right thing to do, to go after them in court for that kind of stuff, which is an obvious copy in many ways. However, as a consumer, it's great. I wish that our American followers, would have the possibility to buy both products and then just make their own informed decision about it, because these artificial limits are always frustrating.
By the way, Nino, if I take the Chinese price and convert it to dollars of the Osmo Pocket 4P, it will be around $525 versus the $750 or $760 of the Luna.
Quite a bit cheaper.
Yeah. Do you think it's because of the premium lenses from Leica? Would you pay the extra if you think the camera is much better, or like?
Well, I think you have the detachable monitor, you have the larger sensors. Of course, there's a difference. I think the difference makes sense. But the question is, do you need it, right? I mean, that's it's quite expensive. Like if you look at this, if you only looked at Insta360's product, and that's their only gimbal product that they have, and it's $700 something or $800. It's a lot of money for this small thing, right? I think it's a bit of a stretch for the kind of target audience you're looking at. For $700, you can already get a secondhand mirrorless camera or whatever. It's pricey. It's
different use cases. I mean, I can tell you that.
Yeah, of course.
That's at least when traveling with the Osmo Pocket from DJI, because that's the one that we used before. When traveling with the family, I'm not risking divorce. Yeah, that's for family usage. Yeah, that's absolutely so. If I take a mirrorless, it's already
But still, it's would you pay almost $800 for something like this if you only use it privately? I don't think so.
Only privately. I will not say no. I will not say no. I'm just saying, don't forget, it's video, it's photos in very high quality, and of course, if you're doing some other stuff, like if you want to be innovative a little bit, and even do some stuff with your kids or family. I'm talking because you kind of said not in a professional way. It can be that this is a jack of all trade in some ways, and it's very small. I mean, it's amazing how easy it is to travel with, and usually the battery consumption or the power consumption of those cameras is really excellent. Now that we can get those cameras with two lenses, one of the biggest issues or obstacle that I personally had in the past is simply gone. You have optical telephoto here also next to the wide shot, and I would not say no. I really need to see the quality of both, and it might be that I wouldn't mind to pay $760 for a camera.
Well, in a way, Insta360 is doing what we always wish DJI would do with the Pocket category, because we know how successful the Pocket 3 has been, and we talked about this before on the podcast as well last year, that we want them to kind of make the same thing a little bit larger, right? Like a little bit larger sensor. We probably was thinking about even larger sensors. I mean, and the funny thing is there has been
a DJI a bigger one,
Osmo.
Yeah.
But it's very old. I mean, it's very, very old,
Yeah.
and it's something that was not very successful. But in a way, they kind of shrunk it down, and the small one became very successful. And now people want a larger one, and the Insta360 is delivering on that with a larger sensor. Where DJI's 4P will have two sensors. Yeah, I think maybe people are willing to pay a little bit more. I mean, $770 is still a lot if you look at what people have in their mind about this category. It's a B for professionally. I think a lot of people treated it maybe as a C camera. You know what I mean? It's like something that you pull out when you don't want to shoot with mirrorless or whatever. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we're thinking about the wrong category. I mean, if you talk about influencers, creators that use this as the sole camera, I can totally see this, especially with the detachable screen and the microphone that's built in, which kind of almost negates the need for using a remote mic. You can use, I think, the Insta360 mic, which directly connects, same as the DJI mic and so on. But actually, now that I think about it, one reason for the weird launch might be that DJI is working in the background, trying their best to still be able to launch this in America. Because yes, they are on the FCC covered list, same as the drones. But my guess is that they are trying to work this out so they can launch it in America. Maybe this is why they are so all over the place with this launch. That's my only guess. And of course, because of Insta360, they were under pressure. So they needed to get it out in some markets. And that's why they got it out in China, because they can do it there. Maybe they're just trying to be able to launch it in America. I mean, that could be,
Anyway, we will have, I think it's by the end of this month that we will have a hands-on on the Osmo Pocket 4P, and we can hear firsthand, hopefully. Maybe we can make 1 or 2 interviews with some officials from DJI.
Let's see.
To try and maybe cover the whole topic of the launch, because this company really deserves better.
Yeah.
Last thing for me about the DJI Osmo Pocket, of course, it can also go to the Luna. I talked in the other day with somebody who's working for the local broadcaster here, and she said that she loves her DJI Osmo Pocket 3. Really for the fact that she can go out, make interviews with people. She just put the microphone. It feels for her like a complete freedom. And I think if you touch this form factor in general before, you know that's really how it feels. And the better it gets, I think we'll be able to literally take our big bag full of equipment and shrink it to something which is very much undersized but not underpowered. So this is something really to look for, and hopefully one of those cameras is the one that we've been waiting for.
Yeah. Well, in the end, if they figure out their stuff, I think it's good for competition. It's good for the consumers that we have more choice in the market. For a very long time, we said DJI could need a competitor in some regards. We probably expected them more in the drones. Now they have it in a different field. I just hope for the sake of the consumer, they will figure out their patent stuff.
Yeah, just a pity. So much money goes for nothing. Like if you think,
well, not for nothing.
No, but I mean that money that could go to innovation, and create some other stuff. But I guess, like with any other divorce, it's the lawyers that will earn the money here.
Well, the realistic outcome is the GoPro precedent, which we
GoPro. We're back to GoPro.
Well, because we reported about this in March, where GoPro lost its patent case against Insta360. And of course, they lost the utility claims at the ITC, and the exclusion order only hit discontinued models of the ACE camera. So, they were literally, Insta360 was able to continue to sell their action camera, the ACE series, ACE 2 and so on. Only former ones were excluded, so it didn't make any sense for them. Just GoPro lost a lot of money in court, like you said. And it seems like US courts are reluctant to pull popular, actively sold cameras from the market. So that is something that, DJI should keep in mind. And a permanent injunction, the one that DJI is looking for in the US, follows a very long process, and the bar is high even for a preliminary one. So the real question here is the leverage. So Insta360's counterclaims reach into DJI's flagship Ronin and Osmo Mobile products, and let's see, how the courts decide. Of course, most likely that there will be a cross-licensing deal in some kind of way or another. That's the most likely outcome from what we've seen in the past. So, they both will get something and lose something. And at the end of the day, nobody will get what they wanted, I'm sure. So let's just hope that the US sales ban for DJI will be lifted at some point. So, yeah.
Okay.
Good. So very curious from you guys to hear about this situation. I mean, there has been a lot of discussion also in the articles that we posted about this topic over the last couple of weeks. And we're just looking forward to hear what you think. Just email us at podcast@cined.com or leave a comment on the YouTube video. Always curious to hear what you think, or if you have some insights that we've missed. Now, let's move on to a different piece of news, and that is Artlist. So Artlist, who started as a stock footage and images company, has really pivoted into AI, generative AI, and they've just announced that they are laying off 200 employees just a year after hiring 120.
Yeah. I think we all used to love and care about Artlist when they came out years ago with a music licensing platform that you literally could pay one sum and then use everything. It was like an open buffet, let's call it, of music. And
they were the first ones, I think, no? One of the first ones.
They were, from what I remember, they were the first one to act like this. You didn't have to license like a song per se or a track. And it was extremely affordable. And then they moved on, they grew up, they did the same with FX and images and so on. And then they kind of completely pivoted into AI. Of course, that's the latest trend, and they decided that they can earn probably much more. Now, I don't want to argue with some figures that they are giving, that they have a 600% growth since they are doing AI and
300 million annual recurring revenue. Yeah.
Yeah, this is something that because it's not a stock listed company, I don't know. All I know is that they did get some big money from some funds and moved on with doing stuff. But what we saw, and that was yesterday or 2 days before, since the recording time, that they are now letting 40% of the workforce literally go home. And this is, I have a bit of a full stomach here. For many reasons. First of all, because they always claimed that AI in general should not be on the account of people. They said that that's going to only empower people and creation and so on. And here, this is kind of a restructuring because of AI, because obviously they are moving to AI workflow internally, and that means that 200 people must go home. And
you said they're not stock listed, which is true, but they're preparing for an IPO, and their founders have been so that's one of the things. They're kind of, what is the saying, prettying up the bride, which is, of course, have less cost, keep the cost down, just make it look as good as possible so they're ready for a IPO launch, so the founders make a lot of money. That's essentially what's happening here.
Exactly. There is a point, and you know what, I'll do a service for the company and ask you guys just to go to the homepage. It's a complete mess. It's very hard to find stuff. It's very crowded, and everything is around AI. So if you are into AI, and according to the company, obviously many people are into AI, and that's why they are growing. Maybe you might find what you're looking for, but for people who, and we could see this in some of the comments, people simply don't like this. People think that the quality of the overall products, like music, literally went down.
Well, they are also, of course, for a lot of the creators who supplied content for their stock catalog feel betrayed because, of course, that's being used to train models. And I mean, if you look at just the top bar here, everything is AI, and then the last one kind of like is stock catalog, right? It's like it doesn't matter for them anymore. So yeah, I think some of the creators feel betrayed, and also the clients, because if you're a user of the site and you have one of their subscriptions and then suddenly you can't be sure anymore if something is real or just AI generated, I think we just have to point out that some of the competitors are going completely the other way, and that is specifically MusicBed and Film Supply, which is basically, they're saying that all of the stuff that they have is human created. So they don't do any AI stuff, and they're very proud of that. So, which is, it's becoming the differentiating factor in this market now, where you are like, if I'm subscribed to this platform, I can be sure that I have something that is created by a human. And that I think we're only at the beginning of this movement where we see that people just prefer real content in general, right? And there's going to be, I think there's a fear also from some big brands. They already start to kind of like take a step back from AI-generated content. Of course, a lot of them are embracing it, but a lot of them are already saying, well, actually what we are making is human-made, and you just have to rely on stock at some point. The problem with stock in general is if you license from one of those big stock platforms like Shutterstock, iStock, Adobe Stock, and so on, even for them it becomes very hard to be 100% sure that the stuff that they're selling has been shot for real. Because of course, as somebody who's creating content and selling it through these platforms, some of them might embrace AI-generated stuff and some might actually prohibit it, or might have you have to mark it. But if you don't mark it, how do they identify it? Because a lot of the image models don't actually carry the watermark. So if it's completely convincing, they might not be able to identify it. You might end up buying as a client, as a customer, a clip or an image that has been AI generated without knowing it. And that's, of course, a problem. And MusicBed and Film Supply are actually saying, I think they probably verified it. They have a very much smaller roster of artists working for them, but that allows them to kind of have a control over that.
Yeah, I don't know what is the mechanism that companies like Adobe, for example, are using in order to prevent exactly the cases that you just stated. I know that as a user, at this stage of my life, I have zero interest in creating AI content or using AI content. This is really defeating the purpose of what we are doing. I think for Artlist to put all the eggs in AI, of course they can prove me wrong and say, hey, look, our business is growing. And I can't argue with this. I mean, I don't have the details. Me as a business or as a user, when I look at this, I think putting all the eggs in the AI basket might be wrong. And it might be sooner or later. And I can see this also in the comments where we are posting stuff on Instagram and so on. People simply don't want to consume AI. Maybe on the lower end, people still find it cool to create stuff with AI and say, wow, it looks like reality. But I think for many of us professionals and those who want to consider themselves as creators, that's simply not interesting.
Well, I think it's also because, I mean, they're really propagating this fully AI-created stuff. And then at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, a lot of the productions are moving to hybrid approaches where you're shooting something with real people, because I think humans still want to see real humans. That's the biggest issue here. Nobody has ever complained about visual effects, right? I mean, we've had visual effects for decades and they've become more and more convincing. And now for the first time, it's easier to kind of generate them. If you do that, including the real humans that you shot, and I think this hybrid approach, I can already see this creeping into a lot of productions, which makes visual effects a lot cheaper, but still try to have real humans on screen, because there's still a difference. I mean, even with the best models out there, that might be convincing, but I mean, it's just simply lacking the soul. And I think there is a middle ground here, and I think that's the kind of era we are heading towards, where you shoot something and then you apply AI to it to kind of make it the way you want it, but it's based on actual footage that you've shot, and not on kind of like garbled together from everything that it has found on the internet. I mean, that's also what we're trying to do with the ethical AI course, of course, which is based on actual shooting from a professional shooter and kind of enhancing your own images and doing that.
Yeah, but anyway, back to the topic here. 200 people have to go, and on the other hand, the company itself wanted to create AI to help people basically, and not to replace them. And I think that's a bit of a hypocrisy in a way. You know, that the way it comes out, it's not good. I just wish that Artlist would have come with an official statement here and be very clear with the direction they're taking and how do they see this. I'm very interested. I wish that one of the 4 founders will jump in and just be. I think this is a good topic for a podcast by itself. Yeah, if they are happy to talk.
The real person or the AI generated one?
I think they're still real, but obviously maybe they will send their AI clones. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll try. Good.
Okay.
Moving on to more industry consolidation. The Paramount Warner Brothers merger deal seems to, it got the DOJ approval, like the Department of Justice in the US. Just a bit of a backstory. Originally, Netflix was supposed to take over Warner Brothers, and then they had a deal, and then Paramount Skydance Studios was launching a hostile bid to take over, and they were successful. It was initially rejected, but then it was successful, and now the DOJ has accepted that deal. Now, of course, a lot of people in the industry are worried about more consolidation in Hollywood, because that would generate a huge streaming service, basically combining all that IP under one roof, and it would, be 200 million subscribers, basically, and. But the fight isn't over, because the California Attorney General Bonta calls it a not done deal and weighs a multi-state action. There is an EU deadline on July 7th and also in the UK on August 7th. And then, they all need to accept this, basically. It's simply not done yet. However, it took a further step. And of course, with the US government being very close to the Paramount people, that's why, it was probably waved through. Let's hope that, other countries will put on and the California state will put on a bit more of a fight here, because this will not be good for production for sure. I mean, this will be more consolidation in production and, not an easy thing. And also more concentration in the streaming era, which means that probably streaming prices will rise. And basically we're back to the cable times where you pay for different pay TV cables. It's just now called a streaming service. It's essentially the same. We're back to square one in a way. But that's how it is. And let's see how this story continues.
It's amazing how much money in this thing, huh? It's really amazing how.
Well, it's also just that
money, power. It's unbelievable.
They're taking over a company with more money than they have. Yeah. So that's the crazy thing here. Moving on to Mark Roberts' motion control. So that is also an interesting story, because, as you might remember, Mark Roberts Motion Control, which is the British company behind the Milo and the Bolt, these robots, cinema robots, very successful in the past. It got a lot of awards, Academy Awards in ~99 and 60-year history. And Nikon bought them a couple of years ago. Then they sold them just in April. Yeah. We reported about that. And then it turned out that this company is in real financial distress. And only 6 weeks later, they entered liquidation, 57 days actually after Nikon announced that it was selling the business. So the buyer is not Blandford Capital, which was the one from the Nikon deal. So they probably just held it for 57 days. There is a there seems to be a new buyer already from what we know, but it hasn't been named yet.
Name. Mystery.
And its unconfirmed reports point to an Australian motion control specialist, but that's speculation really. This is a UK creditor's voluntary liquidation, not a US style bankruptcy protection. So deposit holders likely rank as unsecured creditors. So if you might be. Well, anyway, it's never a good story, but
it's also very much alerting. Nikon left 57 days later. The whole thing collapsed. It seems like really the company has very little money, if at all, to survive by themselves.
Well, if you are somebody who has one of their rigs, if you're like a studio that owns one of their rigs, or have something on order from them, try to confirm your order in writing. Back up your flare licenses, line up contingency rigs if possible, and as soon as a buyer is named or a sale is completed, that's good in a way, because then of course support warranty commitments need to be fulfilled and so on. But so far, very strange. Of course, another illustration of our industry being in really tumultuous times.
I quickly tried to Google and check how many people are actually working in this company, and the AI Google overview gave me an estimate of 51 to 200. So I hope those guys are fine. And when you talked about that, it might be somebody from Australia who might buy the company. That kind of going back to the roots. If I'm not mistaken, the original owner was the inventor of the company was Australian. Oh, let's follow up.
Yeah, let's follow up. We'll see. Hopefully, we'll get some news on this soon. Good. And now let's finally move into new gear, and that is starting with two pairs of lenses. First of all, the Blazar Sentinel Anamorphic zoom. Now, budget anamorphic zooms are still kind of rare. This is a 35 to 60 millimeter 1.33x squeeze full frame zoom lens, which weighs less than a kilogram. And
the price is amazing.
Is $1,100 as an introductory price. That's amazing for a zoom lens.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love what Blazar is doing. The company made a complete shift from being Greyjoy, and the products were heavy, big, and just okay. I have no clue what they changed on the way, but suddenly Greyjoy became even a greater joy by being Blazar. And I think one thing that I really admire, and they do it completely right, is the actual image aesthetic for the price. Yeah, we know, even if they say 133, I've seen it already before with the Apex lenses, which we tested before. This 133 can, in some conditions, look like even 155 squeeze, and they're doing a very good job. And here in this particular thing, I like the form factor. I like that this is literally or almost lightweight. I mean, you'll be able to put it on a gimbal and move on. You don't have to change anything. What I really like less is more that, okay, 133, you have to see how it works. But I understand why they started like this. Many of the cameras still have a 16:9 sensor and not open gate 3x2 or 4x3 to properly support 1.5 squeeze ratio. But I'm a bit concerned is the variable aperture, because it starts at 2.2 and then as you zoom in it will go to 2.8, and this is something that is not my cup of tea. I guess if they would want to keep the aperture consist throughout the zoom range, that meant that the lens would have been much bigger and much heavier. So yeah, again, the blanket is very short, and if you want to keep the size, and probably here they said let's keep the size. And the other thing which I find a little bit strange, if you look at the lens with all this very big writing on it, I don't know, is this a Chinese thing or why? I mean, the writing is not on the wall, the writing is on the lens. Very big numbers and
but it's becoming almost normal for a lot of brands, I think.
I don't know, maybe I'm a bit of older fashioned here. I just don't think that the design is like the outside outer design of the lens when it comes to letters and numbers, I don't think it's
it
beautiful.
looks like the box, like it looks like almost like how you would write it on the box of the lens, how big it is.
Yeah, but this is of course something to look at and try to review. Another thing that I'm not so sure how they're doing it, because they will have Sony E, Canon RF, Leica L and Nikon Z mounts. At least that's what they said, like with other lenses in their line. they're not a Leica L members. And I don't, for example, and people have to understand, for all of those, especially Leica, you have to pay royalties. You have to be part of the Leica L mount alliance in order to even use the mount. I'm very surprised to see that they can go ahead and do this. The same with Canon RF and Nikon Z. Those companies are not so easy when it comes to adapt their mounts and use it. By the way, there is no autofocus here from what I remember, from what I saw.
No. So that's just a manual lens.
Manual lens, yeah. So maybe that's why. Maybe that can go under the radar a little bit. But I just hope that they are cautious and they know what they're doing, because those big companies can literally be after them.
Yeah, but I think it's a cool looking lens. Maybe, that typo is a little bit large, but it looks very classy otherwise. Yeah,
the only equivalent that I can think of currently is the Laowa, but the Laowa is 2 times and much more expensive and a bit bigger. So at least for now, you can save $200 if you want to order this lens.
Normal price will be around $1,300, and now it's $1,100. Close focus is 83 centimeters,
which is not great at all.
Well, it's kind of normal, but it's not great.
This is really not great, especially if it's a run and gun.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a run and gun lens, and that means you will have to use some diopters on the lens itself.
Pre-orders start on June 23rd at this intro price. Please consider using links to B&H and CVP from CineD. We get a very small affiliate fee, which helps keep the lights on in the podcast studio and elsewhere at CineD. All right, let's move on to
the Angénieux.
The Angénieux EZ series. So EZ65 specifically. So basically, those are 2 LPL large format zooms, 27 to 72 millimeter t3.6 and 82 to 300 millimeter t4.2 to 5.4. So not very fast, but also very typical for Angénieux, because they're always looking to kind of make lenses that are not that large. And 60 millimeter image circle. This is literally the kind of zoom lens that is tackling the bottleneck that we have on those large format sensor cameras, like the Alexa 265, the URSA Cine 17K 65, and the GFX Eterna 55, and of course GFX 100 Mark II as well. So there is just simply not enough lenses out there to cover that large image sensor specifically for zoom lenses. So what's clear, they didn't target, very fast aperture with these lenses. I think what they were probably after is, unfortunately, we don't have, I would like to see them in hand, but they were probably looking to create a lens that is kind of versatile and small-ish, because Angénieux lenses are very popular among documentary shooters who like to shoot cinema type. And of course, that's what they're after, because those lenses, the smaller one is the EZ2, which is the 27 to 72 millimeter lens. That is 2.5 kilograms or 5.5 pounds. And the larger one, which is the 82 to 300 millimeter, is less than 3 kilograms or 6.6 pounds.
Still heavy.
Well, yes, but I mean, very high quality lens. And I think for what it is, I mean, if you just think about the zoom range of 82 to 300 millimeter, I don't think it's very heavy. But you, of course, I mean, the trade-off is the T-stop here, 4.2 to 5.4. However, very large sensor, very light sensitive, of course. So that's a trade-off you can make. And I understand. I think there is definitely a market for this if you want to shoot documentary with one of those cameras, this is probably something.
We don't have the prices yet, no?
No, I don't think there's.
I mean, I just want to know if I
pricing
need to sell a kidney or two.
or both. Yeah, probably both. Well, it's a rental item, I guess. And moving on to a new camera, but a different kind of camera, a PTZ camera from Hollyland. Now, I mean, it's, of course, PTZ cameras are very much broadcast.
Not only broadcast. I mean, I think, first of all, they became so popular since COVID maybe. But with this particular offering, and I heard it also from other manufacturers, you know who is one of the biggest buyers of those type of cameras? Churches.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's maybe a market that we are personally not into, but that's just amazing how much. And at least here, Hollyland is very clear with their publications that they are after churches with this camera.
Yeah. So what are the specifics?
In all honesty, I'm not personally into those cameras.
Okay, let me read it.
Yeah, you wanna? I tell you what caught my eye. No, before even the specifications, is the warranty, because I think it's very generous one. It's like 3 years warranty, and if you register the product, it becomes 5 years warranty. And I really like that Hollyland actually is taking an action here and giving you a peace in mind. That's really great. And
well, the cool thing is the 30x zoom. I mean, if you look at this is something, of course, unheard of in normal cameras of, like the ones that we usually use. A 30x zoom is incredible. You see it in optical, and you see it here in the demo video. I mean, they're demonstrating it. It's a 4K 60 UHD camera. 30x optical is, of course, massive. And yes, for big venues, incredible. You can literally have a close-up of anybody in the room, I guess, if you are in a church, no matter how big it is. Maybe not the Sagrada Familia, but in most churches, 30x should be enough. It has a free NDI HX3 license included, which is historically always been a paid add-on. And that, of course, removes friction for NDI workflows, vMix or OBS. And it's $2,000. I mean, that's incredible. It's a 1/1.8-inch sensor, which is for this type of camera large, from what I'm hearing. And it has AI tracking and PoE+. So, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I think Hollyland is very good at picking niches and finding markets where others are probably, not as active. And like you said, I think it's also the type of camera that, if you even imagine in a conference room, like have something like this. If you regularly run press conferences or stuff like that for companies, makes total sense to install something like this and have a live stream. I don't want to talk about against camera operators, but sometimes, you are literally in a room filming people speaking in front of a white wall. And yes, a robot could do this. And this is not the type of job that people would probably miss anyway. But this is probably the kind of application area where these kind of cameras also make a lot of sense. Yeah. But yeah, you don't expect to have cinema quality out of something like this.
It's not meant to do cinema quality, but for what it is, I think the price is right. And as you said, the niche is correct. Yeah, maybe we need one in the studio here when we do our reviews. And
really? Oh God, they would look so much worse. No, we won't do that. Then that's not for CineD. That's for
Church D?
Broadcast D.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to our Lito 1 review. So our dear CineD writer contributor Jacob Han took the Lito 1 for a spin. Now, this is an entry-level drone from DJI. It's the first 250-gram entry-level DJI drone that has omnidirectional optical sensing. And I can't stress enough how important that is, because when they announced the original Mini years ago, that was the funny thing, that it didn't have any optical sensing.
It was for beginners, but without optical sensors.
Exactly. It's a beginner's drone without beginner's features in a way, because for a beginner, of course, it's very easy to crash a drone. And now finally, of course, technically a big challenge to put all those sensors and even LiDAR in a drone that small. And this is...
No, it's the funny thing. I took home the Lito X1 to fly with my son, and I kind of left Jacob with the one, and asked him, you know what, please, that's the basic. Please review this. I mean, I wish I could let my son review the drone and see how he feels. But I think Jacob did really a great review of this basic entry, and the conclusion also is very interesting. But if you wanna, of course, continue with the specifications, that's really great.
Yeah. So the differences between the Lito 1 and the Lito X1 is that the sensor size mostly. You have a half inch sensor on the Lito 1 and a 1/1.3 inch sensor in the X1, and of course that has influence in light sensitivity. Other than that, they're very similar. You have a little bit of a wider lens on the X1 with a 24, and it's a 26.2 mil on the Lito 1. Now, in general, I've never had a drone where I said, "Oh, this is not wide enough." It's usually too wide, and I wish somebody would make drones with
a bit less,
even entry-level drones, which are less wide. Of course, we have the Mavic series with multiple cameras and so on. But I mean, I guess that's the next step for the entry-level drones, to also have kind of more narrow focus in a way. But of course, it's also harder to fly if you don't have lenses that wide. The D-Log M only exists in the X1. That's the most important thing. So if you want to use this professionally, you kind of have to go for the X1. And the LiDAR is also only in the X1, which is of course the more trustworthy omnidirectional vision.
And the storage.
And the built-in storage of 42 gigabyte. Yeah, but just to say that LiDAR is really the only thing you can trust if you fly around trees. I would not trust omnidirectional vision with the built-in cameras, because if you're flying, let's say, in the spring or winter or autumn when there are no leaves on the branches, it's very hard for a drone to recognize just a branch of a tree just based on the cameras, even if it has omnidirectional vision. And that's where the front-facing LiDAR comes in, because it will see this much better, of course, because it's just literally seeing everything in front of it without actually relying on vision. And that's why I would definitely recommend to go for the X1, even if you're a starter.
What's the price difference between the two?
I
think it's like $70. No,
it's not much. Yeah, let's check.
For this difference of $70 or 17 euros, I think the Nino, and of course Jacob, we all agreed that it's simply a better investment. I can tell you that it's really hours of fun. And even if you're a professional, although this is not considered to be a professional drone, especially if you take the X1, because you can a bit easier grade the footage. 1 or 2, 3 shots in your production can elevate it up. And it's a 70 euro difference.
70 euro difference, you're right. And you get a lot. I mean, the storage, the LiDAR,
and the grading,
the D-Log, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff actually that you get in addition, and it's definitely worth it. I honestly don't know why there are so many entry-level 250 gram drones now from DJI. It's a bit. The Mini has kind of moved up, become more professional and more expensive. And then there's still the Flip, and there's a lot of drones now. I think it would make sense to do an overview of their entry-level drones. I mean, we've kind of reviewed all of them, but we haven't put them next to each other. But in general, it's a very similar category, both in what they can do and also the pricing. The biggest differentiator here is, of course, the omnidirectional vision on the Lito now. But apparently the Lito, of course, like I said, seems to replace the entire non-Pro line of the Mini. There's only a Mini Pro now, and it kind of moves up to the top sub 250 gram tier. But again, because of the restrictions, neither Lito is officially available in the US yet. So that's where you just have to keep that in mind. Sticking with drones, let's talk about the SKYROVER S1 and X1 touchscreen combos. What do we know about this brand, Johnny?
The thing is, I know when you saw this article, you went to me and said, "Hey, Johnny, you did not mention that this is like a DJI in a costume drone." And I went to dig even more, and it was a bit hard for me to find proper evidence that this is a DJI drone. So we can all go like, yeah, it's a DJI. DJI is not selling drones in the US. That's what they're trying to do.
It's also hard to find evidence when you hear it raining outside and you don't see it, but it's still raining.
Let me ask this in a different way. Yeah, and we've seen the same thing with this. What's the name? With the Osmo Pocket, the Muse extra Muse. How did they call the other company that make the?
Yeah, so there's a Osmo,
like a clone, Osmo Pocket 3 clone,
which has a different name. Yeah.
So let me ask you in a different way. If you're a serious company who is applying for the FCC approval, would you risk yourself and actually play hide and seek with the authorities? That's the only thing I can think of. What's the logic behind introducing a DJI undercover?
Well, it goes back to the discussion we had around Insta360. Like, if your company is called DJI and that is the company that is listed on this list of the FCC, that products cannot be
so that's
involved.
The answer.
The logical thing is like you make a new company with a different name.
But if it's the same product,
well, I don't know.
I don't think so. I'm just saying those drones, the new ones, actually, there's nothing new about those drones. I think it has to be very clear. What is really new about this S1 and X1 is the fly more combos, that they simply have a new touch screen remote.
There have been, talking about evidence, security researchers like Finisterre, iTurb, and Sawyer found that the SKYROVER app connects to DJI cloud infrastructure, DJI Global, DJI Support, DJI Enterprise, uses DJI's encryption keys, and so it's kind of...
This needs to get approval of the higher management in DJI. That's what I want to believe. If somebody needs to approve to create a new line of clone drones, which are actually DJI but are not. All we know for now, and I'm talking about facts, that there is a company called SKYROVER. They make drones. I hope they are good. If you guys ever use them, please let us know. And if you have an experience comparing them to any DJI drones, let us know if functionality is the same or it's the whole user experience is different.
I'm just saying that's what I mean. That's not our research. It's backed by researchers that do this for a living. But of course, not a corporate admission that this is the case. I'm just saying this is. I mean, it's kind of like it would be weird not to talk about it because it's all over the place. But so that there is a way.
They're also a yellow color. DJI doesn't have yellow color.
Exactly.
Hey, I found the proof that this is not.
It's pretty cool actually in yellow.
The yellow is very nice. It's one of the cool things about yellow. It's like cars. It's so much easier to spot. And I'm sure that in the air, that's one of the things that I'm personally suffering from when I'm flying. Where's the drone?
But unlike a Lamborghini, it doesn't cost more. So a Lamborghini should be in yellow, right? So, but anyway, so this is, it has the same specs as which drone actually from DJI.
Okay, no, you started now. I will let you dive into this and find the
Well, so
next thing you're gonna tell me that the antenna in the controller is exactly the same, being manufactured in the same company.
That's probably the case, but so what's new is that now we have a 5.5-inch multi-touch screen.
Yeah, that's the only thing. That's the new stuff. Yeah.
That's the new stuff. You can get a live view in 1080p 60, 700 nits of brightness, and again, this is the SKYROVER S1 and X1 are also in this sub 249 gram category as the Lito. And if you look at them next to each other, let's look at the Lito.
I'm also trying to look at the controller.
See, I mean, if you look at because that's why we paired these news items. Mm. If you watch the video version of this podcast, you will see what the Lito looks like and what the SKYROVER X and S1 look like.
For you, it looks similar? For me...
one is yellow. That's like you said. One is yellow. That's the difference here. Anyway, Good. So that's new there. Touchscreen combos are now available with this new remote, which also might look reminiscent for DJI users out there. And this is available in the US. That's the big news here. So if you want to get this drone in America, you can. It's available on B&H for $799. And that's the X1 drone.
I have to say, the controllers, the DJI remote controller is very similar to the controller. I have to say. I'm just looking now.
What are you joking? It's the same. It's exactly the same. I'm working with this very often. It's the same.
Maybe the resolution is different. I don't know.
No, it's the same. Anyway,
okay.
So this is available on B&H. So there is a way for you to get this drone.
Which is not DJI.
It's called SKYROVER. And it's, the S1 is $699. That's the Fly More combo. Fly More combo, also very reminiscent of what DJI calls their combos with 3 batteries.
But this is just because for the Americans, they really like the combo, which is really
it's also
the drink and
around
food.
Around the world. So $699 and $799 for the S1 and X1 Fly More combos. Good. Enough with drones, enough with DJI for this episode. Let's talk about lights. We have not so much light news this week, but the Godox announced the LR150 Air and LC500R Air inflatable ring and wand lights with a battery grip and 92-minute, like an attachable battery grip and 92-minute run times.
Very confusing name. You know why? Because the same product, same numbers, just without the word air, is already exists in the market for over a year. So you really have to look, if you look for that specific one, for the word air, and then you will see, that's actually new. I think this is the type of lights that we never really used or worked with.
I only recently was on the, when I did you didn't want me to mention Eurovision.
Don't mention Eurovision.
I'm mentioning Eurovision because a photographer there used them and they were amazing. It's like it packs up in next to nothing and you literally blow it up and it's like a balloon and in 2 minutes you have a really nice soft light with very little fuzz. Basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the first company that is offering something like this. So, I mean, we've seen this before with other leading companies. We have to be...
he had a different brand. I don't remember which one, but it looks really nice.
Yeah. From which side do you blow it? Sorry, that's a joke.
From what?
From which side do you blow the air into it?
I don't know.
Okay. But very convincing, and of course, 2 different use cases. One is more like a stick light, and the other one is more like a ring. Funny enough, you do have different accessories for it in order to direct the light. Interesting, and not so expensive. We have the prices here, which is $99 US for the stick light, and let me quickly check how much is the ring light. If you're into something a bit different, the ring light will be $109 US.
But the actual, before you kind of blow the diffuser up, what does the source look like? That's what I'm wondering about, because it's still.
I'm sure it's always.
Like, I mean, that's where the whole thing.
I'm not so sure that I'm following your question.
No. I mean, what you blow up is the diffusion, right? Or is the entire light?
No, that's the entire light.
That's cool.
That's it. Cool. And it's kind of the the diffuser is built in already.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So then it's the same as the light that the guy used there. And no, they're really cool. I think those kind of lights should get more usage actually in filmmaking as well, because it really packs up in next to nothing, and just being able to have something that small in your kit.
I wonder if it comes with a kit in case there's a hole that you can fix it on the spot.
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's of course one concern that, like it might break over time because you keep kind of like inflating and deflating it. But still, I mean, you can literally carry a lot of them with you in a very, very small bag.
True. There's nothing, and the weight is probably very...
And if you use the app, you can probably connect a few of them and do, effects like this. I mean, this is kind of because sometimes you might need those. It's like the typical kind of thing as an additional light for some effects. You think about do I bring that extra case or do I not bring it? And if it's that small, you can just have it with you. And yeah, very affordable.
For run and gun, for sure. I mean, it's really nice that we've seen so much innovation with lighting since the introduction of LED in general, from flexible lighting to inflatable, not inflammable. Yeah, that's very
maybe
nice.
Also inflammable.
Maybe, yeah,
hopefully
imagine.
not. Yeah, cool. Good. Let's move on to Tilta. So Tilta, just a very brief one here. Introduced a foldable charging station. We know that Tilta only recently actually started making some batteries for a lot of camera brands, which is great. Which, like some batteries in the market, if you go for the original ones, are quite expensive. So it's nice to see Tilta entering this and putting a bit more competition here up. And now they're going into charging stations. I mean, they had a charging station before, but this is quite, it's not an area where there's a lot of innovation usually, but this is really smart. I mean, this is a foldable charging station, which means it just saves a lot of space. It's quite small when it's folded up like this, and once you use it, you can charge up to 6 NPF batteries simultaneously. It has a priority fast charge mode, and in order to not overheat, it has a fan built in, which is important because most of those chargers that charge like many batteries, actually, they usually go sequentially and they don't charge them at the same time. So thermal management is actually quite important. And these ones you can really charge simultaneously. So according to Tilta, 3 NPF 970 batteries, that's the big ones here, reach full charge in about 5 hours, which is not bad actually on the normal household AC connection. And yeah, that's quite useful. I mean, especially those NPF batteries, we all use them still, even though there's no cameras anymore, or almost no cameras.
Are you using those batteries, Nino?
Yeah, for monitors all the time.
For the monitors?
Most monitors still use them. Well, there's also the Kinefinity camera. There's a lot of Blackmagic cameras as well now that use them. So I think a lot of them are still being in use. And the batteries are quite inexpensive now because there's a lot of manufacturers making them, including Tilta, but also many others. But the chargers, is probably not something that people usually focus on. So it's really cool that they have come up with this. Now, this is now available from Tilta in 3 configurations. The single charger is $55 and 2 batteries, and the charger is $129, so quite affordable. 6 batteries, that's the big NP F970 ones, and the charger is $299. And the last one is also bundling with a 100-watt PD fast charging block. So
I'm wondering if it's possible to create some adapters, because we've seen those adapters for other batteries or brands in the past. I wonder if that's also possible
for this one.
For this one, because then of course it becomes even more Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, but $55. I mean, it's really a no-brainer if you use those batteries.
No, nothing to do in terms of like if you're working, I don't know, a Fujifilm camera, you need something.
Well, I'm sure the next step will be having the same thing for others, maybe interchangeable. We'll see.
Okay.
Cool. Let's move on to our closing topics here. Now, we published a nice article on self-made virtual productions. What do you need to get started? Our MZ educator, Biro Florin, argues that it should really be called mixed production because you're mixing real and virtual on set and not in post. A green screen VP setup is a lot cheaper than most people assume. Unreal Engine is free. That's something that a lot of shooters haven't explored yet, because that's what you need in order to get started with virtual production. The spend on this is on the environments and, if needed, the like SDI and so on, cabling, of course. But it is literally something that you can start with your own green screen background, and I would. It's something that I definitely want to try here in the studio, because it's incredible what you can achieve with just a 2-camera setup and, like kind of motion control connected to a computer with the backgrounds, and be completely independent for interview shoots, like not be, if you can't shoot on location, have a nice background with a moving camera and have a convincing result based on a green screen and not spend a lot of money on this, count me in. So check out this article, which dives into how to achieve this. And this is, of course, based on our 7.5-hour virtual production for beginners course on MZ Pro, which will be expanded soon to 10 hours with more lessons. And there's also a separate, very nice long podcast episode with Biro where we talk about his background and the course itself. If you've missed that, that was episode 118, where he talks about his $8 million exit from a SaaS business and how he, started doing virtual production for fun, actually. Very interesting episode, very interesting guy in general. Okay, and last but not least, we had a nice piece on shooting a rocket launch in Apple Immersive video. The story here is that a Chinese crew shot what may be the first Apple Immersive video built around a launch vehicle that's land spaces, well, I hope I say it right, the Zook 3 in the Gobi Desert at minus 12 degrees Celsius. They used the URSA Cine Immersive to shoot the launch of this rocket with various cameras, actually. And it's just cool to watch. It's really closer to theater than home cinema, to be honest. I mean, I like to use Vision Pro to watch a movie at home, and it feels like you're in the cinema. And if it's immersive video, it's really as if you're there. It was just interesting to read the post-production realities here, because of course you're shooting 16K on their 8 terabyte modules, which holds around 90 minutes. And I mean, the playback even chokes apparently on a M3 Ultra Max Studio. So you need very powerful post-production to get this done. Just interesting experiment to shoot something like this. And of course, not something that an average person could at any time be close to a rocket launch, but this literally puts you next to it. So check out the article. And I think with that, we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Johnny. Thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned. Email us at podcast@cined.com. If you have any question, leave a comment also on the YouTube or on the article. And subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And hear you next week.
Bye.
Bye.